Welcome to episode 71 of the Game Changers. I'm Carla, your host. For this episode, I'm featuring Salvatore Leto, known as Sal. His extensive expertise will provide invaluable insights into our discussions, where we will explore thought provoking topics to ensure a one of a kind experience for our audience. A special thank you for the TSA team for their support in creating this platform for meaningful conversation with community leaders and innovators like you. Join me as I delve into the stories and insight of my guests, especially in the realm of fantasy football. The Game Changers foster a unique community, and I'm honored to share this journey with all of you tonight. Who is Salvatore or Sal Leto? Sal Leto is a seasoned veteran in the fantasy football world, having immersed himself in the game since 1992. As a proud father of three, his passion for fantasy sports and dedication to his family have always been the driving forces behind his success. In 2015, Sal joined Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life app, where he co founded the Fantasy Life app Fantasy Football League. The league's vibrant community of over 15,000 members was a testament of his ability to engage and entertain fans around the clock. In 2018, Sal pitched the idea for the Scotfish Bowl Podathon to Scotfish, creating a unique event that has grown into a beloved tradition within the fantasy football community. His proudest achievement, the SFB Podathon, showcases his commitment to fantasy cares, from hosting events to shopping for toys, embodying the spirit of giving back through fantasy sports. Sal's journey took an exciting turn when he hosted the Roto Viz on the daily DFS podcast with Matt Jones and TJ Calkins in 2020, sharing his insight and expertise with a broader audience. Later that year, he switched career path, leading to a pivotal crossword in his fantasy space journey. Today, Sal continues to inspire and engage listeners with his wealth of knowledge, enthusiasm, and unwavering love for his children. Sal's captivating stories, expert advice, and heartfelt reflections on the intersection of family and fantasy sports makes him a person of many traits. Hi, Sal, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. That's amazing. I sound so much more interesting when you describe me than I think I am every day. But it's amazing to be here. It was really nice to get to meet you in 2024 in person, and join you guys with the Game Changers. It's nice to be considered a game changer.
You are a game changer and you are super exciting. And I cannot wait to get to know you more and more tonight, Sal. Thank you for being on the show tonight. So I'm just letting you know, if you see a little bit of shamrock, my birthday is on the 17th. I'm a little lucky charm. I'm a little lucky charm for everybody I see. So that's my thing today. So, Sal, let's talk a little bit about personal and family stuff before we begin in fantasy sport and stuff like that. What's your favorite memory with each of your children? Can you share with us that? I know that you love to talk about your kids.
Yeah, and I'm an emotional guy, so if I start talking about them and I start to tear up, it's good tears, believe me.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I have three children, and my children are 25, 23, and 20, so they're young adults, and two of them have graduated college, and one who is in Daytona for spring break right now has a year and a half left. So my oldest daughter, Madison, she's 25. She's actually in Los Angeles. She has a great career as a publicist. She works for A24 Films, who's
Nice.
She actually was the publicist working on The Brutalist, which was up for many awards as this year's Oscars. So a very recent proud moment was her being at the Oscars and her sharing pictures with me about that. For her, just being 100 miles an hour out of the womb and never slowing down, never taking no for an answer. She created every one of her opportunities So for Madison, her success at a young age in her career and going for what she wanted and actually getting it, and that journey's been amazing. I have one son. He's in the middle. He's also named Sal after me. And I'll tell you a quick little story about him. When he was a kid, when he was first born, he just he was so uncoordinated for those toddler years. I was like, wow, I got one son and he's a dud. Look at this kid. He's not going to be an athlete. Meanwhile, he's barely walking, that's my mindset. Dads, we get a son right away. It's like, we got to make him athletes. And then at some point, it just clicked with him. And I'm a Yankees fan. I'm from New York, born and raised New York. And he all of a sudden took this interest in baseball. And he played many sports. He tried every different sport. He really excelled at baseball. And his senior year in high school, I think I've told this story on another show, and maybe when it was on a podathon, when I have 36 hours to speak. But
wow,
the coaches really weren't giving him a shot when he came into the year, and his perseverance, they couldn't ignore him any longer, and they needed to win basically 9 out of their last 10 games to get into the playoffs. They did that. He led the charge. He was named All League. Made the game-saving catch that put them in the playoffs in the last game. He had so many amazing moments that I cherished that year watching him play baseball, better than any sport I could ever watch. And he did get tapped to go play baseball in college. It was, unfortunately, his first year of college was the year that COVID hit. And they canceled the season. He did fall ball, and then the season came around, and he just changed direction after that. So it was a little tough to swallow that it was over. But that senior year of baseball for him, so amazing. And my youngest daughter is a competitive dancer. She danced from the time she was 3 years old.
I love it.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. I know you Zumba, and so my ex-wife was a dance teacher and a fitness instructor, and she worked in gyms and her entire adult life from the time she was 17 on. So my children were very active, and my daughter's danced from 3 years old. And my youngest daughter, Carly, the moments of seeing her do solos and stuff like that in competitions. And in her senior year at her recital, they do a dance every year with the little babies and their dads, because it's Father's Day weekend every year. Yeah. And they usually have the graduating seniors dance with their dad. Well, her year, she was the only graduating senior. So her and I danced alone on stage at the recital. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. That's
amazing.
Yeah.
I love Carly and Carla, only the last letter. Carly and Carla. That's amazing. I love your kids' stories. They our kids tell us, every single one of them tell us a different story, and I just love what you shared about your kids, and it shows how much love you have for them, Sal. Thank you for sharing this. I really appreciate it. So how has being a father influenced you or your approach to fantasy football? Did it in any way? Did it influence?
Yeah. You mentioned I started playing in 1992, which is probably before a lot of people watching were even born, right? So I graduated high school in 1992, and they used to have a fantasy football game in the back of the New York Daily News. And then 2 years later, my cousins were like, oh, thank you so much. Carla does look amazing, but how about me?
You look amazing too. You needed some rouge, Sal.
Yes. Yeah, I'm very pale. We're coming up on I had a 64-degree day in New York yesterday, so we're getting close. We're getting very close to getting
I agree.
I was a fantasy football player before I was married and before I was a dad. And I could remember, I'll refer to her as my wife. She's my ex-wife now, but when I tell the stories about my wife at the time, you have kids. She wants to go out on Sunday. You work all week and Sunday you want to go out with the kids. So I would always strategically plan, hey, why don't you go shop and I'll watch the kids. It's Sunday. I'll give you the nice day to go. Women like to shop, right? And before anybody watches, like,
Not
don't
this woman.
stereotype women. Don't stereotype women. At that time, my wife liked to shop. All right. So
Yeah.
she loved that. But, so I think I use fantasy football more. I use my children more as an escape to watch fantasy football than maybe
Oh
have it
my God.
influence me. So, but my son plays.
Amazing.
My son participated at Scott Fishbowl for the first time last year. He was at the New York City Live Draft, and he has played since he's followed in my footsteps and played since a very young age. And I think for
Wow.
him, and he went to school he graduated with a business management degree. It
Yeah.
helped teach him about statistics and numbers, and he now has a
Yes.
job working as a bookkeeper for a company on Long Island. And I think that had a lot to do with it. So.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that. I know that a lot of women love to go shopping, and it's so mesmerizing for them. And like, they come back calmer. No, not me.
Yeah.
I would be crying, my ears out. Not kidding.
It's a much different world now. You could get everything online anyway. So.
Online, everything. It's much better. What advice would you give to other divorced parents about balancing family and personal passions, Sal?
The first thing I would tell anybody is make it about the children first, right? Whatever goes on between you and your partner, the
Yes.
children didn't start it. They didn't ask for it. None of it is their fault. And co-parent properly. I get along with my ex-wife. I don't believe in bad mouthing her. I don't think that there's anything. And don't get me wrong. When we were splitting up, was I angry? Did we have our moments? Of course. But as I grew and as I realized that this is the mother of my children, we created a life together. The respect that I show to her is going to reflect on how my daughters allow themselves to be treated, and how my son's going to treat people in the future. So. Make it about the children and their success. Everything I do every day in my life is geared towards what their success will be in life, right? I made it to 50. I was a blue collar guy for the majority of my life, 25 plus years working with my hands in a union. And you mentioned about me changing my career path. We could get to that a little bit later. Everything I did was making sure they stayed in the home that they grew up in, making sure that they graduated in the school that they were going to with their friends, not moving them. I mean, I grew up with friends that moved, people that came into town, and it's never an easy thing. So the most important thing you could do as a divorced parent, parents, even if you never got married or you're not together, estranged, whatever, is focus on your children. They are your legacy, and nothing you will do in this world is more important than raising your children.
I love that you say that. I love it. I love it. I love it. Because I got a divorce as well. And it was not about the children from his part. So I love that you're saying that, because when you take it this way, because two people are really good, but marriage didn't work out. And it shouldn't be part of you shouldn't be putting the kids in the middle, period. Like, you shouldn't. And I love 100%. That you share that, Sal. Thank you for saying that. And I'm sure you love your kids. You are telling me that you respect your wife. That show me how much you are an amazing person. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So with fantasy football, what was your biggest win in fantasy football?
I've had wins, right? And I've probably lost more than I've won, because I've played for so long, and as I expanded to bigger leagues. The first time I won my first league, like, I will never forget that. And that was 1998. I had been playing for 4 years in the league, right? I started in 92, but my actual home league, which was with my older cousins, who I was at a graduation party, and they're from New Jersey. And we were talking about it, and I'm like, oh, well, we have a league. You got to come play in the league next year. And I'm like, oh, my God, this is amazing. An actual league. So it was a 10-teamer back then, and the rules was so much different. It was not online. We hand did every one of our scores. And I won that in 1998, which was my fourth year. Like, I beat my big cousins. I beat these guys. They're older. They're 10, 12 years older than me. They're wiser. Like, I'll never forget that win. And my cousin, who was the commissioner, he was actually so proud too. Like, there was nobody who talked more trash than him. And he was a big guy, and he would physically toss you around. This is what he loved to do.
Yeah.
I remember buying me a cake at the next draft. I mean, we did live drafts every year. Like, you went in person, and that was the key to that league. That league went, for me, it started before I joined it. I joined in 1994. That went until the year of COVID, 2020, in person every year. And like I said, they're about 10 to 15 years, 10, 12, 15 years older than me, and COVID created some complications. We did lose one of my cousins at the beginning of COVID. So that kind of ended that league, which also sucks, just not like divorce, but also sucks. So for me, that was the biggest and the most memorable.
What's the most challenging part of managing fantasy football teams? And how many football teams you manage?
That's my exact answer, right? I was about to say, letting yourself get talked into so many, right? What happens is, and for me, when I started, I got into the fantasy space. I've been following on forever, and around 2015, I got an opportunity to start writing, and we followed direction. In 2016, we created our podcast, and I figured networking, the best way to network was to join leagues with people.
Yeah.
And I did. And that was actually the year 2016 was when I found Scott Fishbowl. It was the SFB 480. And for those of you who don't like 480, it's only SFB 15 this year. It used to be the amount of teams that were in the league. So there was 480 teams in 2016. And I started joining league after league. And you all know who John Bosch is. John Bosch is out there. He creates these monstrosity leagues. They're all different. I've been in a league with John that has superpowers. You can draft or auction, because everything's auction with John. You can auction for a superpower and use that against your league mate or your opponent that week. And I just started joining everything. So I think the hardest thing is to manage all that stuff. Then you get on each week and you talk 2 to 3 times a week. I was doing a show 2 to 3 times a week about everything you like, and everybody that you're playing against knows. They know your tendencies. They know who your pickups, your ads are. They know who your trade target. So doing a fantasy football podcast, writing, being in numerous chats, it hinders your ability to surprise anybody.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that. I heard a lot of people were managing a lot of teams. That's why I'm asking you how many teams you're managing. Because
at my highest, I was near 30
plus. You do?
At my highest, I was at 30. I'm under 10. I'm under 10 now. I dialed it back a lot in recent years. There was, I just couldn't do it anymore. I had other things that needed to be attended to in life.
Yes.
And I don't like to do anything, half-assed. I don't like losing. I mean, nobody likes losing. I don't join the leagues just to donate money, unless it's the SFB. So, yeah.
So Mel was asking the same question I'm asking. I don't know if you were managing that in 2024, but she's like, oh my God, 30. So, yeah. He managed 30 leagues. So just saying. Yeah, that's, oh my God. I don't know how you guys do it, but kudos for you. What's the best trade you've ever made?
Ooh. Boy, I go back to my old league, and I had a cousin that would say, the old tagline, sometimes the best trade you make is the one you don't make at all, or the best move you make is the one you don't make at all.
Yeah.
Let's say, listen, I'm old now, Carla, so I can't remember these things. Let's just go back to last year. I am in a dynasty league with a great group of guys. No, I don't, and I don't live my life thinking that every day. I live my life. I'm going backwards in age, not just maturity wise, but also physically. I'll go to a trade last year. I'm in a great dynasty league with a bunch of guys from Tennessee. I don't know if you know who Nixon is, Kenneth Nixon. He actually sings. He sings in a band, and he's going to kill me if he ever sees this. He's phenomenal. And we played in Scott Fishbowl a couple of years ago when it was bands, and
nice.
We were in the Guns N' Roses division together. So he invited me to join, and we got Debro in there, Derek Brown, and Waz, the other 2 guys from the industry community that are in there. And the rest of them are his friends. We got a professional wrestler in there. a guy
Wow.
who's on the scene with AEW and trying to make his move in WWE. It's a great league of guys. That's my point. We have Jones, Jonesy, who is he trades in his sleep. This guy is trading around the clock. We played each other in a championship last year. He destroyed me, but I made it there. But coming into the year, I had Jordan Love coming out of 2023, finished strong, young, nice dynasty prospect, and he wanted Jordan Love, and he offered me a deal that included Josh Allen. And I'm like, you want to trade me the number one asset in dynasty football because you think he was really thinking Jordan Love was going to make that next leap this past year. And then, all of his weapons getting injured didn't help him. Him getting injured didn't help himself. So, but he also wanted Chris Olave. And Chris Olave is a great young wide receiver in dynasty coming out of 2023. Now, he obviously got hurt a lot in 2024 also. So I convinced him to send me back Gardner Minshew. I'm a Raiders fan. I already had Aiden O'Connell. So I got back Josh Allen, the number one asset in fantasy dynasty football. Minshew, who was a serviceable quarterback in a super flex. And I got back the rookie wide receiver from the Colts last year in a deal as well. So I killed him in that deal. I absolutely killed him in that deal. And maybe not the best I've ever made over 30 years of playing fantasy football, but a really good one that was recent.
Yes, I agree. I agree 100% with you. That's Josh Allen. It's something else. So, that's really good trade.
He got the last laugh. He beat my butt in the championship. He beat my butt in the championship. He got the last laugh.
He still beat you.
So,
That's crazy.
He still beat me.
So, how do you handle trash talk in your leagues, Sal?
There was a time where I was the lead trash talker, right? So I was just that guy. It was a different time in my life where, first of all, I played sports my whole life. If you're going to be on end with me, I'm gonna chirping and
yeah.
I'm not here to hurt anybody. I never play anything halfway. Like, we're here to play. And I was a college soccer player, actually, of all sports. A lot of people probably don't realize that about me, but my father was born in Sicily. And as soon as I could walk, it was a soccer ball put in front of me. And we grew up playing soccer, but I also played a lot of street hockey, roller hockey, ice hockey. And I played lacrosse when I was in high school as well. So I like the sports where we bang a little bit, and I'm a little rougher of a soccer player. So that just came natural to me. Like, I'm a competitor, so it came natural with fantasy sports to also talk trash too. And we had some good trash talkers back in that home league. And as I got older, I got a little bit more. I started to play like a character when Falafel started, which was more of like an aggressive New York type of guy, and it was never really serious. And most of the people got to know me knew that it wasn't serious. If you ever spent a day in one of the old Capitals Pigs chats, which was a Scott Fish league, which kind of emulates Scott Fish Bowl, and there was 4 14-team divisions with 4 copies of players, and we were on Voxer where you could leave voice chats. I would attack John Bosch. I would leave voice messages just insulting him and attacking him, where it became almost people were rooting for them. They couldn't wait for my daily I will repost the tweets that were put out there. Somebody kept all the clips and made a music video out of them. And it's me. Oh God, it's priceless. And it's if you don't know me, if you haven't heard, I'm going to repost them tonight when we're done. I'll repost them. Go to my Twitter page, which is Sal Leto FF. I will tag. Yeah, I'll tag the show. I'll tag Carla.
Yes.
There's cursing. There's aggression. Every ounce of them was done in good-heartedly, lightheartedly. No rugby. I never played rugby.
I know.
I never played rugby, but I did play kill the man with the football, which when we were younger, you got a football at recess, and whoever had the football, everybody else tried to tackle him. And when you got close to him and tackled him, he would throw the ball up, and you chase the next guy. So I think that's way rougher than anything I've ever played.
That's crazy. Sal, how do you balance gut feelings with analytic in fantasy football?
I'm a gut feeling guy, and analytics is probably what drove me to death of recording podcasts. I was so over everything being over analyzed. Yeah, there's a real tool usage of analytics, but also there's watching film and watching guys and seeing what they could do. And I will
Yeah.
more often than not make a decision based on gut feelings than analytics. And coincidentally, when we started Falafel, which was my original podcast, we created a little network as well, and we had a podcast called the Gut Feeling Podcast. Gut Feeling Podcast was two guys, Derek and Jason, one a Canadian brother to the north, and they would do their gut feelings every week about what was going on in fantasy football. So I would always lean gut feel.
So you're saying the show it called Falafel?
Yeah, not like the food.
You know what
but
falafel means
yeah, no, I know what
in
falafel
Arabic?
is. Yes.
Did you
Well,
ever
you tell
taste
me.
it?
Is it the food? Yes.
Yes.
I have. I mean, I live in New York. We have street fairs and of every culture and every background, and I've tried it.
Yes.
And as I've gotten older, I've gotten more adventurous in what I'll eat. So I do like it.
Yeah.
Spelled differently, but we that was kind of like the joke.
True.
We pronounced it that way. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love it. I love it. I wanted to ask you about that, and then you said it, so I put it in here. There's Rachel is asking something before we go to the other stuff. So what's the birthday countdown?
So on last year's Polython, last year was the big 5-0 for me. I turned 50 last August. I think 2 days before I arrived in Canton. So we were kind of celebrating my birthday at Canton. But on the Polython last year, which took place, I think the Polython was the last weekend in June. Last year, it's usually last weekend in June, first weekend in July, depending on where 4th of July falls. And it was brought up so many times over 36 hours. And I kept bringing it up like we hadn't spoken about it. It became a running joke on that weekend and then spilled over onto Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. We're all on Blue Sky now.
Yes.
It became this countdown, and some people would act like it was the first time they were hearing it. It was like this running bit. So I got to celebrate my birthday first with my family and friends here back in New York, and with my extended family and friends in Canton, which was probably the greatest thing I could ask for. I got to really enjoy that whole week with a lot of different people, meaningful people.
That's amazing. I love it. My birthday is every day, so just
yeah. All right.
Through the year.
Well, you should.
That's my countdown.
Like you gotta live life like it might not be there tomorrow because it's a reality.
I totally agree. After my car accident, every day is a new day for me, which is really amazing. So we were talking about Fluffle. What inspired you to create that?
Yeah, we could spend the rest of the show talking about it. So if I start to speak too long, tell me, all right, we're moving on to the next thing.
That's your show.
2015, my marriage was basically it was falling apart, right? It was, I had a lot more free time. I was still living home. We were living home separately. And my kids were younger, but also getting a little bit older. They were teenagers or getting to that teenage years, and they were busy. They were social. I found myself with a lot more alone time.
Yes.
And I had come across an advertisement for Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life app. Now, I had followed Matthew Berry back to the 90s. I had known who Matthew was when he was the talented Mr. Roto. That's where the TMR comes from. If those of you don't know what Matthew Berry TMR is, it's talented Mr. Roto. I had known who he was for a really long time. So when I had seen that, I was like, and I had known about the book, the Fantasy Life book that he put out there. And I was just like, I'm going to download the app. I had Twitter since 2012. So I was a little bit on Twitter. My first two follows, people that I followed on Twitter were Matthew Berry and Darius Rucker, who's one of my favorite musicians of all time. I've gotten to meet him in years since as well. So I jumped on there, and in one of my first couple of days on the app, somebody had posted an ad for us. They wanted to start a 16-team league with people who had been playing fantasy, knew how to play fantasy, and were ready for the challenge of what a 16-team league was. And I had this free time, and I was like, wow, I played in the 10, I had played in the 12, 16. That sounds pretty wild. I joined. And that was Steve, by the way, who was one of my podcast hosts on Falafel. And so Steve affectionately was the one who affectionately came up with Fantasy Life App Fantasy Football League, because that's where we were founded. 16, they were all men. So 16 men from various parts of the country who did not know each other, had no prior knowledge of each other, entered into this league. So we started a group chat, and we thought it was a group chat for the league. Well, all the forums on the Fantasy Life app were open forums. We were unaware of that. So we were in the group chat every day, getting to know each other, having conversations. And some of us clicked a little bit more than others, and we would joke with each other. And there was dads, and there was older dads and younger dads and various guys of different ages. And one morning, we were going back and forth about some TV show and joking, and somebody who was not in the league decided to speak and said, hey, I don't know who you guys are, but you have entertained me all morning. Keep doing whatever it is that you're doing. And we were like, whoa, there's other people in here. What's going on? So that league, that chat took life of its own. So in 1 year, you mentioned it at the beginning, in 1 year from the start to the 1 year anniversary, we had gained over 15,000 members, organically 15,000 members. It was 24/7. It was people on the East Coast. It was people on the West Coast. It was people who worked day jobs, night jobs, mid shift, late shift, fourth shift, Taco Bell, wherever you were. And we started to create meme wars, and we had all these theme nights, and everybody wanted to join the league, but we only had 16 spots, and we already had them filled. So we decided to come up with a tier system similar to English Premier League soccer. So we had Falafel, we created Falafel Junior, and we made that a 14-team league, and more people want to join. So I came up with the name Falafel Embryo because it was, pre-junior embryo before the baby's even born. And that was a 12-team league, which by the way, my son plays in now. He can't get his way out of embryo. And we created this tier system. So in the 16-team, if you lose, and you got to play all the way through to when you get eliminated from the playoffs, you're still fighting relegation like you do in English Premier League soccer. If you don't know, 3 teams go down in English Premier League soccer every year, and 3 teams come up. And we would only eliminate one person because it was 16 teams. That person goes down to junior. The winner of junior comes up. Junior loser goes down to embryo. Embryo winner goes up to junior. And you got a chance to climb this.
To climb the ladder.
The ladder. And it became more about, I could tell you, as that league it's just completed its 10th year, it's more about not getting eliminated than winning at this point. You start to realize, I'm not gonna win this league. There's no way. I have to figure out how not to get relegated. But anyway, go back to Fantasy Life app and how it developed. There was 2 guys who created that app. Charlie, and God, if they see this, he's going to be mad at me. They created the app and they pitched it to Matthew Berry at a book signing, and Matthew loved the idea and they created it. Well, Matthew came on himself on Christmas Day. He came into the group chat and said, I want to thank you guys for what you've done, what you've generated here. And we're like, people like, oh my God, everybody is in this chat. Matthew Berry's in this chat. So Steve, myself, one other guy, Kevin, we decided, well, maybe there's something here. Let's start a podcast. This is 2016. Podcasts are not what they are in 2025. Everybody with a microphone and a computer was not doing a podcast. There was the football guys, the fantasy footballers, the 016010, whatever Matthew Berry's show used to be called, the fantasy show on ESPN. There was 5 or 6. And we threw our hat in the ring, and we were terrible. We were absolutely terrible at the beginning. Episode 5 or 6, we had our first guest, and it was Matthew Berry. Matthew came on, and it legitimized us. We weren't great, but we were an upstart group of guys, and we were regular guys interacting with people every day in a group chat. By the way, I live in Brooklyn, so if you hit a fire truck going by, it's just normal. That's normal here.
Yes. Yeah.
That started my career in podcasting, writing, and so much happened from there based out of that app, the Fantasy Life app.
Because of something that you didn't even know that it's gonna happen, and it happened. That's just amazing. That's an amazing story. That's wild. Amazing story, Sal.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. So with the Flaffle, community and everything that happened there, how did you come with the idea of SFB Padathon?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we were podcasting that first year in 2016, and I had come across we had invited Scott to come on and because we had found out about the league, and I told Steve and Kevin, those are my two early brothers that did that journey with me at the beginning, and I told them to apply to be in that league. I said it's a great way for us to network. It was all about networking in those early days. Who could we get on? And by the way, so many great people came on in that first year. Matt Harmon, when he was just doing Backyard Banter, he was not with Yahoo. He was not with NFL Network yet. Mike Wright, when the Ballers were like year 2. Liz Loza, before she was ever Yahoo or ESPN. Like, we had so many amazing people on in those early days, and to watch all them grow in the industry, and it's fun to see that. But I said, hey, let's join this league. So we all get invited to SFB 480, and we're like fans. We're fans who have a microphone and we're recording at that time. We're getting a little bit of a following. We got a sponsor that first year, which was maybe our second year. Absolutely, we could touch on that in a minute. That first year of the drafts, now SFB used to be 100% online, right? There was no live drafts.
Yeah.
That first year, the Scott Fishbowl was trending on Twitter. It was either year 1 or year 2. Trending on Twitter the same day that Tim Duncan retired from the NBA. And it was neck and neck with Tim Duncan. And I'm like, this is one of the greatest NBA players of all time, definitely of his generation. And the Scott Fishbowl was trending side by side with it. There's something to the Scott Fishbowl. We got to figure out a way to catch the fire, the fever, whatever. So I talked to Kevin and Steve and said, maybe we'll do a 2-hour show to Data Live. Every draft kicked on the same time on the same day. It was the Monday after 4th of July. I said, maybe we'll do a 2-hour show. We'll invite on Scott, a couple of guests, and help get us a little bit of attention and maybe raise a little bit of money for Fantasy Cares, which back then was pulling in probably under $10,000 a year. It wasn't. Fantasy Cares was not a legal licensed charity at the time. We used to collect money on PayPal, and it was excruciating. But as the year went by, I had a thought. We used to have telethons on TV, and every year Jerry Lewis, they had a telethon for muscular dystrophy, which was the biggest telethon on television, and that was a 24-hour variety show where people came on and different, famous people and people who had, gimmicks and whatever, and they raised money for muscular dystrophy. The people stood in the background, they answered phones. I'm like, I never heard of a podathon, but let's do a podathon. SFB podathon. Scott Fishbowl podathon. I pitched the idea out. He loved it. And that first year, we had to go out and beg people to come on. They had no idea who we were, what we were doing, what the point was. Year 1, we did have Matthew. Year 1, we did have Mike Wright. Year 1, we did have Liz Loza. We had some legitimate people come on, but we also had to fill the space with people nobody had ever heard of, including inviting friends on. And what happened, what I thought in my mind was, hey, maybe this will hit around year 5. Maybe we'll hit our stride in year 5, and this will be something. And the next year, so we raised about $4,300 that first year while we were live on air. $4,300. We were amazed that anybody would donate $1 to us, and that money 100% went to Fantasy Cares, what Scott's initiative was, and we were so proud, right? Following year, got a few more people come on and raised about $7,500, which was great. And that was the first year Scott said, keep that $7,500 and go do toy shopping in New York. And that was the first year I got to go do toy shopping. I was like, wow, I got to take my kids who were younger at the time. And I was like, wow, what an amazing feeling this is. Donating in the name of Fantasy Cares, what Scott's initiative was. And that was 2019. We were, who knew we were heading into COVID? And 2020 comes around, and my dad had a stroke. And I remember I was on my way to visit my dad at the hospital, and I decided on my way there, my brother was driving. I'm like, oh, we're getting close to SFB time, Podathon time. Let me put the tweet out there for guests. Well, I got a response. I couldn't believe the response I got. Like, everybody all of a sudden wanted to be a part of this. And what I thought maybe would happen in year 5 happened in year 3. And I was like, well, I'm getting such a big response. Maybe I should get sponsors. And the idea was the sponsors would donate for their hour of sponsorship, and that money would also go to Fantasy Cares. I wanted nothing. I want to donate my time. Is Scott, who he's become over these years, these many years, almost 10 years, he inspired me to do more. And Steve and Kevin were right there with me to do it. And that third year, we not only did we have an insane amount of guests in the industry, we raised $42,000. We went from $7,000 to $42,000 in 1 year. And I was like, oh, it hit. Like, this hit. And this was during a COVID year where people were tight for money. People didn't know if they were going to have jobs. People didn't know if the houses were going to be foreclosed on. And they came out in droves to support this initiative. And I knew that we had something. And what it's grown into over the years since then, which is 5 more years since then, we do have a fully 50c3. What is that? I don't even know what that stuff is called. 501c3 charity. We have that now for the last 2 to 3 years. All the money is combined. What we raised last year in Fantasy Cares combined was hundreds of thousands of dollars. And what Scott and Bob Gilchrist and Zach Reed and John Bosch and these guys that they're literally living it every day now. I can't put in the time that they put in. What they've grown, to be a part of what they've grown, but what they continue to grow every day. And Bob Gilchrist is a monster in what he does. I'm so proud that the Podathon helped get that charity to where it is, because what Bob told me was one of the things when you have to prove you do a certain amount of things. They were so excited to hit it. We were doing a telethon style show. That gave me the chills that I see you getting over there. Like,
me too.
That gave me chills to be a part of that. I don't need to make a dime from the fantasy football industry. I have a very good job. And what I need to do is make a difference. And what changing directions in my career and having to put a real focus on that career, I decided, okay, the Podathon will be what keeps me involved in the fantasy community. Fantasy Cares and the Podathon will be my lineage. I'm not going to do a weekly show anymore. I don't have the time to do it. I don't have the desire to study the numbers and the analytics the way I once did when I was younger. And as smarter people with more time that do it, and I will lift them up and I will support them and I will hope that they're as successful as possible. I have a job. This is my mission in fantasy football now. So, what that spun into, again, organically, the Falafel was organic, the Podathon was organic, but the key component to the Podathon is this: no matter how big it gets, and no matter how many people who work in the industry, it started out from a small show, and we survived in those early years with small shows. We will always make room for the people trying to break into the industry. It's not just about Matthew Berry. It's not just about Bob Harris, who are so gracious with their time. It's about those younger people or not so young people who are trying to break in the industry, even if it's a hobby, it's trying to become something. We have a spot for you in a Podathon. We'll try to squeeze you in. It's getting a little bit more and more difficult every year, but we try to do for everybody.
Your passion like talking about the Scott Fishbowl, Padaton, and everything that you guys were raising and stuff like that. It gave me goosebumps because I do a lot of events as well. It's not as big as what you do, guys, but this is so important. To be human is to care and to give and to, to expend that to people that they don't have what you have at some point in life. That's amazing,
Hmm.
Sal. You're like, you're talking and my heart is like bumping so fast because I love that passion in you, and it shows that you care a lot about what you're doing with the Scott Fishbowl and the organization. I know that you were talking about the money with Fantasy Care and the Scott Fishbowl Padathon, but do you have something to share with us, like a heartwarming story that it never goes away from your mind?
In relation to fancy cares,
Yes.
so one of the things I started to do when I do the shopping is, it's you'd love to see the kids actually get the
I
toys,
agree.
but when you donate the toys for donors, you get the opportunity. And believe me, there's a lot of political hurdles that go through to get into a room to donate to kids, especially sick kids, because they're sick
Yes.
and
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that you can't they can't be around. I'll give you a couple of things. I'll try. I know I will speak about topics, and I'm trying to not run on too long about certain things. But
You are
um,
fine.
maybe the third year that I started doing the shopping, I would go up to parents in the store. I would not approach the children. I would go up to parents in the store and ask them if they would like their child to pick out a toy to
Yeah.
donate we're going to pay for it. We're going to pay for it. What
Right.
would your son or daughter think a child their age would like for Christmas this year? And
Yeah.
those kids would go and they would find, man, this would be amazing. And they would put it in my shopping cart. Get that toy, put it in my shopping cart. If you want to hang around, go see us pay for it, load the truck, whatever. And having my own children there, being a part of that. My son, who was in college, and his fraternity mates would come, and that whole thing where we got other people involved. You don't know who we are. You don't know why we're walking around with $10,000, $11,000 in the store. Nobody cares about that. Hey, come help us.
Yeah.
There's that. The next one I'm going to say, and I'm going to try not to tear. I'm going to tear up. It's not. It doesn't matter. I'm going to tear up.
I'll help
I
you.
have a friend.
I'm already there.
I have a friend who also happens to be a coworker and now has become my boss, who I love dearly. And in October of 2023, um, he called me, broken up, that he had found out that his 6-year-old son had been diagnosed with leukemia. And I was just devastated because I've known his son since he was born. And I was like, my
Yeah.
guy, my buddy, I love them. And it's good family, just good people. And nobody's prepared for that. Nobody's prepared for that.
No.
And what they endured in the first 6 to 8 months, I won't talk about all of it, but it was a time where it was touch and go and it was scary. And I will say very happily that he's in his final year of treatment right now, in which they believe 1 year from now he will be done with everything, and he's in a good place. He's got a full head of hair again and all that good stuff. But um, this gentleman had played in the SFB. He was a fantasy football player. He had bought the SFB Potadon shirt every year. He had donated when he can, and he reached out to me. He said, "Sal, I don't want anything for my kid." He goes, "But I know that in those days when we were first in the hospital, what kept him going was the video games and the toys
Yeah.
and all that stuff. And I just wonder if Fantasy Cares would donate to the hospital that he was in." And I asked, and they came through, and they came through at a level I didn't expect. They donated a $5,000 check in his son's name, and then
Wow.
they donated $5,000 toys to two different locations of that hospital, Child Life Program and another area. And I'll never forget that. That family will never forget that. And Bob working tirelessly with the people who ran those programs at that hospital on Long Island, getting that done, getting the stuff there, going on Amazon with their Amazon wish list and ordering legitimately everything himself and having it delivered. The time and the effort that these folks put in. And just a quick fast forward to this past year, being so busy, and it snuck up on me. And it was the first year I was not prepared to do the shop. So I said, Bob, I work in a hospital. I run facilities. So I'm an assistant vice president of facilities for a hospital in Brooklyn. We have a cancer center. We have a child life program. Can I take the $10,000 that I usually do shopping with and donate it to toys here at my hospital in Brooklyn? And they did it. They went online. They shipped the toys to the hospital. They sent Nintendo Switches to me directly because those wouldn't ship, and I delivered those to the cancer center. Those moments when you see it in real life, right? Buying the toy, doing the shopping, it's festive, it's happy. It's like Christmas morning for me because my kids are adults now. When you see it touch people, that's when it's so much more meaningful. So
I agree 100%. And I do help.
We're both wiping the runny nose.
I know. This makes me so happy because this is what's all about. This is what makes us human, and this is what like, even if you don't have a lot to offer, like sometimes $1 can make a difference, and you see it every single day.
Anything makes a difference.
It can.
How about just retweeting something? Retweet something makes a difference. Like anything you can do to make a difference. Even $1, sometimes you don't have it. We live in a wild time. I mean, we don't have to touch on the political. We're living in it. If you're not aware of it, then get out from under the rock. People's, 401ks and their life savings. And we live in a wild time. We came out of COVID, where we talked about that earlier. That was my New York COVID. My New York accent came out there for a second. You can help in so many ways. Showing up to events, spreading the word, helping. I met Carla last year when she showed up to that Boston event. Do not for a second say what you do is on a small level. Everything that every single person does matters on the same level. And you came there, you were tremendous. You were nonstop. You're there on your own time. You're there because you care. Those are the ways that you could help. It doesn't always have to be about money.
I agree 100%. Like you don't have to put money into helping. You can be there. You can be present, and that's what's important as well. So let's go, because this is really like a lot, and let's take it a little bit on the fun and tricky part of the podcast. So what's your all-time favorite fantasy football team name? Which one is your favorite?
I don't like quirky fantasy football team names. Like I don't, like I see like
I saw in the chat toilet or something. So
I don't know that I've ever had like a weird. When we were in that original league, I was the only person from Long Island in the league. They were all from Jersey except for me. So my cousin named me Strong Island, which is a nickname for Long Island. And so I was Strong Island for a little while. And I guess that represented by where I come from. I am not a dynasty league. It's a Waffle Dynasty League. So it was born out of the league. And it's the Falafel Elite Ninja Assholes Society of whatever men. So we kind of had like ninja names, and I have Beverly Hills Ninja and Chris Farley as a ninja as my little icon. But I don't do crazy fantasy football names. Not a thing for me. Yeah, but
if you could have dinner with any 3 fantasy football experts, who would they be and why?
I've had dinner with some, so I'm gonna eliminate them, including Bob Harris, who probably would have been one of those on my list. I've had dinner with Bob Harris. I've met Matthew. I've sat down with Matthew. I'm gonna have dinner with Bob Harris in August, so it's like, of course it's Bob, but
course.
Sal Studs. Okay, we can do that. I'm going to name that, Doug. That'll be my team
Yeah.
names this year. So I'll have dinner with you too, Mel. Wherever. Anyway, I've met Matthew. I've been to Matthew's live shows. I've met him at
Yes.
different events. Matthew has been tremendous to whatever I've done in the industry. I've never sat down and had it with him. So Matthew's fun. Mike Wright is great. And Mike, again, I've met Mike at least 2 times, maybe 3 times. But I haven't sat and had a meal with him. So those 2 would definitely be on the list. Let me see somebody. Man. Scott, I've had dinner with, those guys. Ryan McDowell, I've had dinner with. I'm not name dropping and bragging, but these are guys that are friends of mine. So Matthew, Mike, man, anybody who has ever joined us on the Podathon over the many years. I like Eric Moody. Eric Moody's awesome from ESPN. He was on with us before he went to ESPN and got a bigger role with ESPN when Matthew left. Not Field. I don't want to have dinner with Field. He's too good looking. He's young. He's good looking. He's going to right away take all the attention off of me. So no Field Yates. So yeah, I'll put Eric Moody in there because, and I'm going to have to tell him. I'm going to have to tweet at him tomorrow, Eric, that I said that because he's what a sweetheart of a man. If you don't know who he is, go follow him.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What's the most creative way you've celebrated a fantasy football victory?
Oh, I think we'll probably have to go back to trash talking because there was definitely a lot of trash talking every time I've won. I don't play in any that have punishments outside of relegation. So I've gotten the joy of punishing someone.
Oh my
so
God.
I think just good old fashioned drinking and celebrating. I don't think I've ever done anything super dramatic.
No? You don't have like some kind of
talk,
ritual, something like you have to do? No?
No, first I have to try to get back on the winning side. It's been a couple of years. And I'll take recommendations. You guys could tweet at me recommendations on how to celebrate. Maybe I'll take a trip, maybe
Awesome.
I'm at a point in my life now where I like to travel. So
so how has the fantasy football landscape changed since you started in 1992, Sal, for you?
Well, like I said, we didn't have any online leagues back then, right? There wasn't.
Yes.
Everybody didn't even have a personal computer in those days. It was not guaranteed that every house had a computer or a laptop, an iPad, a phone that basically is a computer in your pocket. So the innovation of online leagues, the simplicity of creating a league at the touch of a button, is because I played that long, is the biggest innovation. Being able to play country around the world. I mean, I played people in Ireland, England, Germany. The expansion of the social networking of fantasy football and the computerized aspect, of course.
Yeah. How do you handle sometimes like there's a lot of criticism online, and not about you, the criticism, which is about women in fantasy football. How do you handle that when you see it? And what kind of feedback you give to women in the fantasy football field to do in case they were like your friends or someone that you've met, or even you've never met? Would you try to defend that like negative criticism that you see? And tell me a little bit, what do you feel about all of this that's happening around?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I have 2 daughters, right? We talked about that earlier. I'm a promoter of women, and I don't believe that there's anything a man could do that a woman can't do. And I'm always going to give, even in my, if I'm hiring somebody, I'm pulling for the woman. I want that woman to walk in and show me that her resume is equal, because she's going to get the opportunity because
Yeah.
I believe in diversity, equity, inclusion. I don't care that it's being stricken from our government. I won't dig too far into politics, like I said earlier, but I believe
Yes.
in equality. I've always been a believer in equality. I'm the only straight man in our LGBTQIA plus business employer relations group at the hospital. I'm comfortable with everybody, and if I see somebody being of any group being held back because they're a member of a minority group, I'm going to speak
Yes.
out about that, and I'm going to let people know that I'm not here for it, and I'm going to try to lift people up. What I would say to any woman position is stay true to who you are, right? If you're good enough to do it, you're good enough to do it, and that will shine through. And we do have enough people in this world who have become more consciously aware of that, and we have good out there of all backgrounds that are supporting. So for me, I would say don't feel like you have to go to the old expectations out of a woman and stuff like that. Be you, be strong in your convictions. If you're smart enough, show them that you're smart enough. If you have a specific talent that needs to shine through, let it shine through, and do not back down. Do not back down. Do not let anybody tell good enough. That's that person's reflection of themselves.
Beautifully said. Thank you. Thank you, Sal. So Greg Kellogg just came in and he's saying hello, and he have a question for you. So he's asking if you are fading Saquon.
I think it'd be so foolish to fade Saquon. I mean, the guy's slightly superhuman, right? Like I am a New Yorker. I'm not a Jet or a Giants fan. I am a Raiders fan, and I've been a Raiders fan since I'm a kid, about 8 years old. So I wouldn't fade him from the standpoint of a New Yorker who hates him for leaving. As much as I don't love the Eagles, I like the Chiefs a lot less. I know I see the Chiefs banner up there, but I am a Raiders fan, so I can never root for the Chiefs. So I did root for the Eagles and Saquon. So I'm not fading him. I don't see a reason until he's gonna have to prove to me that he's no good anymore for me to fade him. I'm not fading
him. What legacy do you hope to leave in the fantasy football community, Sal?
Definitely one of somebody who gave back, who knew that there was a bigger mission than making money, and it's a difficult space to make money in right now if you're coming up. And I would say to everybody out there, if it's what you really want, keep plugging along, but also consider the fact that there are other great opportunities out there, and you could do it. You could continue to do it as a hobby, or continue to do it part-time, or you could do something in the charity space. And so my legacy will be of a guy who found his niche, and that niche was doing good things through fantasy. I've been around it and seeing so many ebbs and flows and ups and downs, and a point where I thought maybe I do want to go do this full time. Living in New York with 3 kids in college, it wasn't financially possible, and that's where my career change went. And I went, and 5 years ago I made a decision, great decision. So my legacy would just be that I gave back. I'm genuine to who I am. Nothing. You've mentioned it. You see the passion in how I speak. None of this is made up. None of this is written down. This is internal. This is who I am. So being a genuine person who cared about other people and gave back through the space.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Let's do a little bit of like rapid fire questions. So I ask you a question and you try to answer as fast as you can. Good?
Okay.
What's your favorite NFL team?
Raiders.
Your go-to draft day snack?
Wings for sure. I love wings. I love chicken wings.
Best fantasy football app?
Sleeper.
Most overrated player?
Not Saquon Barkley. It's tough to say Jalen Hurts. It's tough to say Jalen Hurts after the Super Bowl that he had, but the regular season, I mean, and most of his touchdowns come from 3 inches away, so I feel like he's overrated. But
Yeah. Most underrated player.
I'm going to say Mac Hollins because I was on his back for so many years where he actually hit a little bit. So I love Mac, and he got a little bit of payday. So I hope he actually gets a chance to ball out this year. I think he's better than people give him an opportunity.
What's your favorite fantasy football podcast besides your own?
If I had to sit down and pick one, it would be the Ballers. I say footballers. I think just about as perfectly as
you're cutting up. I couldn't hear well.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It was the fantasy
okay.
footballers. Like I said that
yes.
I don't think they fantasy footballers have achieved podcast perfection, in my opinion.
That's amazing. That's amazing. One player you'll always avoid drafting.
Almost anybody on the Raiders. You know, I mean, it's hard to ignore Brock Bowers, but it's hard to ignore Brock Bowers, but I don't want Raiders because they break my heart, and I don't want to have it broken twice.
What's your best fantasy football advice in one sentence?
Go if you have a player that you want, go get them. Have fun playing, and have the players that are going to make it the most fun for you to play.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we're almost like at the end of our show, Sal, but I want to ask you, what's your vision for the future of your fantasy football journey, of your own journey that you want to share with us tonight?
Yeah, for me, growth as a person, and everything around me will come with that. I've changed so drastically in the last 10 years of my life, and who I've become. I'm so proud of where I'm at. I'm proud of my children, my family, the relationship I have with my children. So for me, it's continued growth in all aspects of life. And the better person you are, the more honest you are with yourself. Every single day, be honest with yourself. That honesty will lead you to the best possible places you can imagine. And it's done wonders for me.
That's awesome. I agree 100%. Before we leave, I always ask my guests a question. So here we go. What can you share with us tonight that you either never shared before, or a secret that you never spoken before, and you would like to share it with the Game Changers? It can be something from, a young age, but you never spoke about it, or something that happened maybe recently and you never shared it with anybody.
I have one that's so dumb. That
I'm fine with that.
Is she gonna be like, is this really what you're sharing? I think I've given so many like good things tonight. I'm going to tell you guys that I was a bedwetter until I was 10 years old. That's a secret I would never share with people, that I used to wet the bed as a kid and much older to be comfortable with talking about that. Yeah. I really want to find something. I'm a so it's so hard. Like, I will share almost anything. I will speak to you about almost anything. So it's so hard for me to find. But as an adult, I don't think I've spoken to. Do you know who David Goggins is? I mean, everybody knows who David Goggins is, right? He's this. He's a former Navy SEAL who these 100-mile marathons, and he puts himself through the most insane test of will as a human being, and he's a in-your-face kind of guy. I listened to his book on Audible, and he talks about being a bedwetter. I was like, man, I identify with this guy. He's a bedwetter. So I think we've had such an amazing podcast, an amazing hour, and I'm going to close it with, hey, my secret is that I was a bedwetter until I was a teenager.
I'm sorry. That's what I do. That's what I do, Sal. I'm so sorry.
I have no there's no humility here. I think when you're comfortable with yourself and you can talk about that things and you can expose yourself and expose people to things about you, it makes them comfortable to be around you. People are comfortable around me. I know that. I know that about myself. And it's not giving me a big head. In fact, it's reduced the size of my head. I had a bigger head when I was younger, and I thought way more highly of myself when I was younger. I think highly of myself in a different way now. I value myself differently, and it's allowed me to value people. And I've gained their trust through honesty.
It keeps you grounded when you talk from the heart, when you have the passion, when you are connected to people, when you do something different in people's life. It keeps you more grounded, and I love that, Sal. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us tonight. I really do appreciate every single second of it. So before we conclude, Sal, can you share please how our audience can connect with you on social media?
Yeah, much anywhere I have social media, it's SALLETOFF. Instagram, there's an extra F because somebody, I don't know. But Sal Fantasy Football on Blue Sky. I think on Blue Sky, I might have just my name because I was so excited that I could just get my name over there because it was this new platform. But it's my name. If you look for my name, if you look for my name, I'm there. It's Sal Leto. I'm easy to find. I'm not as entertaining as I once was, but we'll have fun. Interact with me. I like to interact with people.
I really can't wait to see you either in Boston this year or in Canton at the EXPO. This has been really a great night to get to know more. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. I'm waiting on Scottfish for that. So we will see. We will see. I'm hopeful for that. You speak up for me, Sal. Come on.
I will talk to him. Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for this episode of The Game Changers. I hope my discussion with Sal provided valuable insight into his experiences in fantasy football and life itself. Join me for the next episode on Wednesday, March 19, featuring Leo Siga as my special guest. I would like to acknowledge JC for his contribution behind the scenes and the entire TSA team. Please subscribe to our podcast because we're going only from YouTube, like The Game Changers, only from YouTube. And leave a review. Your feedback is important for me and for our improvement. Follow us on social media for updates on upcoming episodes and be part of the Sports Affiliation where everyone is welcome. Until next time, keep challenging the game and making your mark. This is Carla and Sal signing off, wishing you a pleasant evening. Thank you, everybody.